One Zambia, One Nation, thank you so much for joining us on the news desk. My name is Amos Zulu. The top stories. COMESA bloc countries challenged to invest in fertilizer production plants. Angola officially reopens Malundo border posts via Sikongo. Government concerned with increasing chiefdom boundary disputes. Plus, preparations for Zone 6 volleyball tournament advance. And now the news in detail. President Hakainde Hichilema has sworn in George Kawatu as Commission Chairperson of the Emoluments Commission and Levi Piri as documentaries at Cabinet Office. President Hichilema says the Commission is important as it is mandated to address issues of remuneration in the public sector and harmonize the pay and roles performed by officers. The head of state further stressed the importance of technology in the effective delivery of services by the Commission and preservation of accurate information. Mr. Hichilema emphasized to the newly sworn-in officials to create effective teams and ensure that the work of other government departments does not stall as the Commission settles. He says his administration is now in its second year of power and is focusing on unlocking the domestic issues that stand in the way of delivery of services. And speaking shortly after being sworn in, Emoluments Commission Chairperson George Kawatu, who has over 30 years of experience in the civil service, committed to ensure that the Commission is quickly operationalized for Zambians to see the benefits. President Hichilema signed the commencement order on June 28, 2022 for the Emoluments Commission Act 2022 and came into operation on the publication of the commencement order as per Government Gazette Notice Number 1042 of 2022, dated July 6th, 2022.
The importance of the Emoluments Commission to, first and foremost, the issues of compensation, issues of, I may not say call it compensation, but remuneration to various colleagues in the public sector and direct and indirect. And we need to make sure that we do justice to that so that remuneration reflects, one, the work that people do, number two, that those that are remunerated accordingly are able to deliver on their mandate, on their commitments, their roles, obligations to the people of Zambia through their specific responsibilities. And I think, Chair, you have a very important role here to make sure that the Emoluments Commission works professionally, because it's important that it does work professionally and that the records appeal are kept in order at any point in time. We are able to access the records, of course, by those that have the right or are responsible for accessing the records, and that anytime we do such a thing, the records will be impeccable. The records will be actually the correct records. So we don't want to hear that, no, the personal biodata is missing. No, the last time we had to change in the remuneration, we can't pick it up. Governments come and go. This institution will continue.
As the President has said, it's a new commission. It has been going on for a long time without it being operationalized. So my friends and I are appointed. We are going to do the best we can do to make it operationalized. And two, since it has taken long for it to be operationalized, we are going to do our best if we can do it as quickly as possible so that the Zambian people can benefit, can see what results can come out of that commission.
African Union member states have been called upon to increase domestic financing towards programs on food security and hunger. The call was made during the official opening of the African Union high-level meeting focusing on nutrition in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. King Letsi III of the Kingdom of Lesotho, who is also AU Nutrition Chairperson, bemoaned the continued increase of cases of malnutrition on the continent, especially among vulnerable groups. He noted that the continent is endowed with vast natural resources that can be utilized to create its own sustainable financing towards combating malnutrition. Vice President Mutalena Lumango is also in attendance.
The largest city and economic center of Côte d'Ivoire, Abidjan, has become the center of attention as heads of states and government leaders gather to share sustainable solutions towards food security and hunger on the African continent. In February this year, during the 35th session of the African Union Assembly in Ethiopia, member states reaffirmed the importance of nutrition as a pillar in human development, social and economic transformation. 10 months later, governments and various stakeholders have met in Abidjan to share the progress made so far and share experiences on ending malnutrition on the continent.
Nutrition-sensitive food production and agriculture has to be prioritized to enable us to respond to the ever-increasing demands of growing populations, particularly urban populations.
In alarming proportions. According to statistics collected in 2021, 828 million persons were affected by hunger in the world. That is an increase of 46% since 2020 and 150 million since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Zambia is represented in Abidjan by Vice President Mutalena Lumango, who shared the country's course of direction towards food security.
We are taking this issue extremely seriously, and like Ivory Coast or Côte d'Ivoire, we have now put an act in place, and we have put this issue in the office of the Vice President. We are taking it seriously, multifaceted as it is. We are putting it in our work plans from the National Development Plan 2022 to 2026. We have put it also in our strategic plan. It is very important for us.
A high-level panel comprising government leaders shared domesticated programs being implemented to improve food security and the impact of malnutrition on human capital.
The human development is also affected mentally, in the mind, and that is very critical. Because then, if the mind is also stunted, if I can use that, underdeveloped, that means, therefore, that even our general development cannot be attained.
We need a comprehensive agricultural modernization program, which we are implementing with the support of partners, and that program would help us to have locally produced foods.
The target for governments is to increase investments towards nutrition and accelerate progress towards the achievement of the goals of the Malabo Declaration and SDG number 2 of ending hunger. Vopa Sendo reporting in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire.
The African Union has pledged to support Zambia's proposed agenda on ending hunger and malnutrition as the continent strives to improve the state of food security and malnutrition. AU Commissioner for Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development, Minata Samate, says she is happy with Zambia's commitment towards ending hunger and malnutrition. She said this when she held bilateral talks with Vice President Mutalena Lumango in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. And Vice President Mutalena Lumango said Zambia is where it is because of government's political will to ensure that matters of food security and nutrition are prioritized. Mrs. Nalumango said this is one of the remedies for the country to graduate to middle income level by 2030. She added that Zambia is implementing the Sustainable Development Goal number 2 that talks about zero hunger, which is aligned to the National Development Plan. Meanwhile, Mrs. Nalumango called for the AU member states to go beyond pronouncing commitments made during such events as the high-level dialogue meeting if tangible results are to be achieved. Mrs. Nalumango is in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire for the African Leaders High-Level Dialogue on AU Theme of the Year on Food and Nutrition.
to congratulate you for what your country is doing, and also your engagement in SADC region and in Africa also. What you are doing to support us as a commission. And your region, we thank God, is more peaceful than Sahel or Central, but your country is doing a fantastic job to have peace, security, and stability. Because without that one, we cannot have, we won't talk about food security. It's very important. And also, you talk about commitment to end malnutrition by 2030. It's very important. You say something, we cannot build the Africa we want if we are malnourished. If we have stunting children, we have many, we said in French, famine and malnutrition. If we cannot end that one, we won't have a healthy population. And also, we won't have the Africa we want with our young generation. If you don't eat well,
knowing what the world is going through, and Africa in particular, we have put it in our programs. That includes our strategic plan. We reduce it down to the work plans in government, and we are committed to see that the implementation of programs to do with the reduction of malnutrition is multifaceted. It is multi-sectoral, and therefore there are many ministries that are working together with cooperating partners, and indeed the UN family. We are working together to see how we can do it. And the Office of the Vice President, in which I sit today, is the coordinating office in our country now, so that we can see the many ministries that are involved in ensuring that the nutrition status of our people is improved. That include many, health being one of the lead ministries, but that goes for agriculture for us, that goes for water and development. In fact, we have dedicated a ministry for water and sanitation. We see it as very, very important if we are going to reduce malnutrition.
Stakeholders in the agricultural value chain from southern African countries have been urged to come up with viable regional industry fertilizer production plans to address the looming high fertilizer prices, which will consequently lead to food insecurity in the region. This was decided at the ongoing regional public-private dialogue on fertilizer sector development in Southern Africa, being hosted by the Alliance for Commodity Trade in Eastern and Southern Africa and the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA. Michelle Robinda now reports.
Many African countries still depend on fertilizer to improve their agricultural activities and harvests. However, a number of challenges such as climate change and sporadic conflicts experienced globally has affected the availability of most agricultural supplies, including fertilizer. The African Fertilizer Agribusiness Partnership has since arranged a regional public-private dialogue for Southern African countries to find sustainable ways of improving agricultural production and productivity.
We're trying to strengthen a key player in global markets, but definitely on the continent, which is the wholesaler of inputs. And I say that because although fertilizer is often the most valuable commodity that passes through hub agri-dealers,
the African Secretariat Alliance for African Partners has called for more investments in the infrastructure to increase production of fertilizer in the region.
Building capacity of Africa to build its own fertilizer manufacturing capacity, including within SADC. There are talks of the need for building, local manufacturing capacity of fertilizers. But again, research will tell us that we need to be extremely careful, that we need to take advantage of economies of scale. We cannot have every country have its own fertilizer manufacturing plant.
Alliance for Commodity Trade in Eastern and Southern Africa, ACTESA, observes that the enhanced harmonization of regulations and policies among countries can help in addressing the cost of fertilizer in the region.
Term to long term, we are looking at ACTESA, to do the harmonization of the fertilizer standards, regulations, and policies. This will accumulate in the fourth interest for Actesa of having bulk procurement, for the member states.
The Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA, has since pledged continued support to efforts aimed at improving the performance of the agricultural sector in the region.
The way forward for Africa should be, we need to organize those small-scale producers into cooperatives and then equip them with the necessary equipment, machines, and we need to go into mechanized agriculture. We need to produce 2 times, 3 times a year, not 1 time a year, waiting for natural rain. We need to use irrigation, for instance. If you take Zambia, Zambia is a blessed country with 45% of underground water in Zambia.
It is hoped that a solution will be found in addressing the high cost of fertilizer in order to safeguard food security. Michelo Luwinda for Zanis in Lusaka.
Police in Mumba district have unearthed a scam in which 124 bags of fake and underweight fertilizer is being repackaged. Mumba District Commissioner Namukolo Hayumbu witnessed the recovery of the fake fertilizer being stacked at Mumba Police for safety and has warned that government will not tolerate the act.
So they are mixing this one with those to make this.
Mumba Police has unearthed a scam of which unsuspected people who are repackaging underweight but also fake fertilizer for sale. Preliminary investigations indicate that the major ingredients of the fertilizer are limestone, sand, and a ratio of fertilizer. The development has saddened Mumba District Commissioner Namukolo Hayumbu, who witnessed the recovery of the fake fertilizer.
Men and women in uniform have unearthed a scam by some people who are selling fake fertilizers. It's very sad, especially that Mumba is a farming district.
Mrs. Ayumbu has since warned the perpetrators of the vice to stop their evil ways.
Let me give a stern warning to our youths and the so-called businessmen who are involved in this to stop, because the government will visit them. Those who are found wanting the long hand of the government and the law will visit them.
Mumba District Agricultural Coordinator Dr. Nicholas Mainza now unveils the tricks being used by the fake fertilizer sellers.
Fertilizer at the moment, we know the prices from different agro dealers. It's going, ranging between 7, to somewhere 800. But them, they are selling at actually 250. So it's actually an alert to farmers to say, cheap is expensive. When you are buying something which is so cheap, just know that actually it's something must be lingering around that thing. So it is actually a warning to these, scrupulous people that do not take government for granted, because actually, the law actually has visited them. Not that the law will visit, but the law actually has just visited them today.
Farmers who are the major target should be on a lookout and should report suspected fertilizers to relevant authorities for scrutiny. Krugas Yankulu, Zanis, Mumbwa.
In other news, the Angolan government has officially reopened Malundo border post between Zambia and Angola via Sikongo district in Western Province, which closed in 2020 due to the COVID-19 restriction measures. Provincial Acting Deputy Permanent Secretary Richard Mulwanda has thanked the Angolan government, saying the reopening of the border demonstrates a renewed relationship that has continued to exist between the two countries. And Angolan Governor for Moshiko Province, Enesio Mangala, says the Angolan government looks forward to enhance bilateral relations with Zambia to promote cross-border trade.
For over 2 years now, travelers and traders between Zambia and Angola have been hard hit by the stiff measures that were put across by the Angolan government due to COVID-19 pandemic, which resulted in the closure of the Angolan borders with Zambia. On 7th December 2022, the Angolan government, in collaboration with the Zambian government, officially opened the Malundo border post that borders with Zambia via Sikongo border district.
Do you know why the border was closed?
No.
Não.
Foi devido à Covid, não é problema entre dois governos.
It was because of the COVID-19. It wasn't a problem of the two countries, no. Just the COVID-19.
Somos povos irmãos, zambianos e angolanos.
We are brotherly people, Zambians and Angolans. But you have seen that the COVID cases, they have reduced. That's why today it has been thought of opening the border.
O município dos Bundas.
You can visit Lumbalangimbo.
Lumbalangimbo, podem ir até Lumbalangimbo.
You can go up to the
família, fazer compras.
Visit the families and also to do some shopping.
The Zambian government officials have appreciated the cooperation that Angola has initiated between the two countries in order to enhance economic development through cross-border trading between Zambia and Angola.
The reopening of this facility, a reabertura desta fronteira, renews the good relationship that has always existed between the two countries.
Besides just the official opening of the border, Angolan government says it has more plans aimed at easing trade relations between Zambia and Angola, which include upgrading of the Malondo-Ninda Road to bituminous standards and construction of modern border facilities.
They are not only sitting idle, but they are also doing the same. They have got plans also to improve the road from Lumbalangimbo up to the border here. They want to make it habitable in a way that vehicles can pass without difficulties.
According to the Zambian Development Agency, it is estimated that trade potential between Zambia and Angola is about $1.5 billion, and this can be actualized through enhanced partnership and cooperation between the two countries. And this mainly involves construction of the Kalabo-Sikongo-Ninda Road. Susan Samlela, reporting for Zanis in Sikongo District, Western Province.
Now, government has signed a compact development funding grant agreement with the Millennium Challenge Corporation worth $8.3 million United States dollars. The agreement will see government receive $8.3 million United States dollars meant to assist Zambia in the agriculture sector. Speaking at the signing ceremony in Lusaka, Minister of Finance and National Planning Stumbeko Msokotwane says the agreement will translate to employment creation and economic growth in line with the agriculture sector. Dr. Msokotwane says Zambia has qualified for the grant because of good governance and economic management. He said the board of the Millennium Challenge Corporation selected Zambia as eligible for the development of the second compact. And Millennium Challenge Corporation Principal Deputy Vice President of the Department of Compact Operations, Kie Kim, said the agreement will act as a launchpad to job creation and economic growth.
The amount of money that we've just signed off, as you have heard, is a grant to the Zambian government in the amount of $8,300,000 US dollars, $8.3 million US dollars. This is a grant of money to assist Zambia to narrow down on what it is that you can do in specific terms to make the interventions to improve the agricultural sector that we heard about one way or another. Okay. So I think we'll be spending the next 1 year or so doing the project preparations, and this money will assist us to get to the final product of what exactly are the interventions going to be to improve the agriculture sector.
This compact will help unlock and unleash the agricultural potential of this country, increase agricultural productivity, add value to agriculture production, and really serve as a launch pad for greater growth and job creation for this population. I can say sincerely that the government of Zambia has been a really excellent partner with the Millennium Challenge Corporation over the last several years, and we expect that this partnership will continue and to grow in the next in the next couple of years as we are developing and finalizing this compact program and finally implementing it so that the results are seen by the Zambian population.
Clearly, Zambia's potential is massive. And herein, again, the Millennium Challenge Corporation, an element of the U.S. government, can play a key, critical role as a catalyst in unlocking binding constraints to economic growth to support job creation, revenue generation for the government, and that brighter future that the potential of Zambia can become a reality. We've identified the agriculture sector particularly as a driving area for the economy.
Local Government and Rural Development Permanent Secretary for Administration Mambo Hamaundu says government is concerned with the ever-increasing chiefdom boundary disputes. Mr. Hamaundu says the situation has continued to undermine developmental efforts in affected areas and in some cases threatening human life. Here are the details.
Chiefdom boundaries in Zambia are described in accordance with the 1958 chiefdom boundary maps, which are officially recognized and authorized by government. In a quest to address the recurring land boundary disputes among traditional leaders, which arise from lack of information and difficulties in interpreting the 1958 chiefdom boundaries, government has reproduced adequate copies of the 1958 chiefdom boundary maps with enhanced topographic features for easy interpretation.
The reproduction of the 1958 chiefdom boundary map was done by superimposing topographic features and did not involve production of new maps. I think it's very important that I emphasize this point to say what we'll be launching today, or what we'll be looking at, is both the 1958 map as it existed then, and the 1958 map which now has on it some physical features for ease of interpretation.
However, chiefs in Central Province fear losing their land as most newly created districts are not showing the chiefdom boundaries on the reproduced 1958 maps.
The government to create provinces or to create towns, because by law we are supposed to allocate land when the president wants to create, for example, new provinces or new districts. This land comes from the chiefs. So with this, aren't you creating fear?
Chief Chamuka says it is imperative for government to relook at the 1958 boundary map so that chiefs can have authority in the newly created district as well.
I feel it is imperative that as you update the maps, have a relook at this.
Aaron Perry is the senior cartographer from the survey department.
The government position is that the 1958 edition remains the official one.
Daniel Billy for Zanis News in Kabwe, Central Province.
Thank you, Daniel. Government says it remains committed to improving water and sanitation in the country. Minister of Water Development and Sanitation Mike Mposha says this can be evidenced by a number of projects being implemented in the water sector. Mr. Mposha says among the projects being implemented with support from various stakeholders is the $6 billion United States Zambia Water Investment Program, which was launched by President Hakainde Hichilema in August this year during the African Union 4th Media Summit. The minister said this when he officially opened a two-day workshop for water utility company heads in Lusaka, being supported by the World Bank and the German Development Corporation.
Government has been making substantial investments to improve water and sanitation infrastructure. But this is not adequate to meet the current and growing demand for water and sanitation services. Recently, we had the government-to-government negotiations which took place in Berlin, in Germany, a few weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago.
And I'm happy to say that out of that meeting, the answer to your assignment by the people of Jakarta has been answered. And very soon we'll be announcing, and we hope that very soon the works will be able to start.
Players in the sector one day meet and be able to review the period for which these CUs have operated in the sector and see the successes and challenges. Also try to explore the opportunities. And so the CUs were gracious enough to accept that and have been able to sponsor this gathering here where we are.
Out of the water that is pumped, processed, and taken to the people, Honorable Minister, about close to 50% of that water is lost through non-delivered water because of broken pipes that are so old from 1965, and they are asbestos pipes, and you can't find them anywhere when they are tied, Honorable Minister.
And in Southern Province, the local authority has commenced the re-establishment and orientation of district devolution task forces in order to fully operationalize the devolution of government departments to councils. Provincial local government officer Clayston Hamuliata says that the devolution process is inevitable for the attainment of quality delivery of services. Details in the following report.
For a long time now, there has been a call by the general public for the local councils to improve service delivery to the people. To respond to this call, government operationalized the decentralization policy by devolving some of the public services from central government to local authorities. These services also require the transfer or shifting of officers from central government to councils. To facilitate this process, the Local Government Commission in Southern Province has embarked on a program to re-establish and orient the devolution task forces in districts.
The orientation now is just to renew the already existing program that has been going on. You know, we have staff that have been moved from place to place. We have staff that have just been employed who have never been oriented on decentralization, and that's why we thought probably to rekindle the idea of devolution. So the orientation is actually in line with the government guidance that we reintroduce devolution task forces in the district.
Pemba Town Council is hosting the orientation meeting.
There are a lot of gaps in the way officers understand the decentralization policy through devolution. It is my hope and prayer that this message has now sunk, has been received well, and those gaps that officers were having have now been cleared. They will be able to understand what decentralization is, which departments are devolved to the local authority, and also functions. We also want to appreciate the government for actualizing the decentralization implementation with the transfer of resources through CDF to the district.
Chintu Nangamba, reporting for Zanis News in Pemba District, Southern Province.
The Northern Province Administration has commended the Zambia National Service, ZNS, for its role in the implementation of various government developmental projects in the region. Director of Finance at the Northern Province Administration, Brusho Kabengele, says ZNS has undertaken a number of projects which include the construction of Akasokoshi Dam in Luwingu and earthworks at Kasama Airport, which are currently underway.
The Zambia National Service is undertaking several developmental projects around the country. In Kasama district of Northern Province, the service has been given a project to do earthworks at Kasama Airport. A media team from the ZNS headquarters, led by Lieutenant Colonel George Lukonde, has since visited Kasama to appreciate works at Kasama Airport and other projects in the region. This is under the directive of ZNS Commander Lieutenant General Maliti Solochi.
The works are going on well. There's a tremendous progress that we can see, and I think this project is on schedule in terms of completion, and we appreciate the provincial administration for giving us an opportunity also even to work with them.
The team started its mission in Kasama by paying a courtesy call on the Northern Province administration.
There could be a lot of projects that you are doing, and as a province we really appreciate, because we have a bank of knowledge with ZNS, which previously used not to be. We are not using it, but now we are using it, which is a plus to the nation.
Northern Province Director of Finance, Brasho Kabengele, who also accompanied the team to appreciate works at the airport, says the completion of works will spur economic growth in the province.
Once this is completed, there will be a lot of traffic into the province. And as a result, there will be the economic activities will improve in the country. So therefore, there is need to complete the works at the airport, because this is going to spur economic growth.
Ntazanga Mumba for Zanis in Kasama.
Chieftainess Nawaitwika of the Namwanga-speaking people in Akonde district has called for continued efforts in the fight against gender-based violence, GBV. Titani Zulu reports that the chieftainess was speaking during an engagement meeting with the clergy and traditional leaders held at her palace.
Gender-based violence, GBV, has continued to take prevalence in homes, workplaces, and schools despite so many efforts from various stakeholders to curb the vice. Chieftainess Waitwika of the Namwanga people has, however, urged the general public to continue with the fight and not tire until the goal is achieved. This came to light when a combined group of officers from different government departments and the civil society took initiative to address traditional leaders and the clergy at Chieftainess Waitwika's palace in Akonde district on Wednesday.
We end our news on a sporting note. Preparations for the forthcoming Zone 6 volleyball tournament slated for December 12 to 23, 2022 in Lusaka have reached an advanced stage. Zambia Volleyball Association President Nakaonga Kakoma confirmed this at a press briefing in Lusaka. More in the following report.
Preparations for the Zone 6 volleyball tournament to be hosted by Zambia from December 12 to 23rd have reached an advanced stage. Zambia Volleyball Association President Nakaonga Kakoma confirmed this at a press briefing in Lusaka today.
This particular year, we are glad to announce that we're hosting the Zone 6 tournament, and it will be very special. We are ready. We are 80% ready. Of course, it can't be 100%, but of course, we are 80% ready, and we expect a number of teams to come through, and we expect the gold medals and all the medals to remain in Zambia.
Zambia Volleyball Association Vice President for Finance, Chirukuta Mwiche, highlighted the total budget that has been pegged and how much they have raised so far.
Budget of 700,000 kwacha, and so far we've actually made 80% of the budget, and at this point we'd like to thank the Ministry of Sport that has come on board. They are the major sponsors of this tournament. We're so grateful to the Minister and his team for coming on board to support us.
Earlier, Nkwa's volleyball team player Augustine Mutiti expressed his team's readiness.
Well, we are preparing well as a team. Mozambique, the last time we had the similar tournament, and as you can see behind, the lads are putting in much effort with a view of defending or want the cup to remain in Zambia. As you know, Buffaloes, Chalube, Unza, Prisons, and us in Kwazi are preparing for this tournament. So we want to put in our very best so that the cup can remain in Zambia, and we encourage
Zanis in Lusaka, I am Sunday Warrior.
For that report, here's a reminder of our headlines. COMESA block countries challenge to invest in fertilizer production plants. Angola officially opens Malundo border post via Sikongo. Government concerned with increasing chiefdom boundary disputes. And lastly, preparations for Zone 6 volleyball tournament advance. That is the end of the news. Remember, you can access these and many other stories on our website, zanis.com.zm. On behalf of the entire production team, my name is Amos Zulu. Bye-bye.